use it. So let's say on this spectrum up here that you were interested in, like, let's say you're kind of in this space. It's like you have a mostly predictive approach. Yeah, you're using some agile practices, and you're interested in bringing one or more of your teams to using an agile way of working. And again, I'm going to use this example, which we call Agile 1, which is the life cycle of an agile approach using time boxes, using iterations for like projects or, again, larger quantities of work versus something that's more like continuous delivery. So there's two things that are important to understand about these quick starts. One is it's going to provide you a starting point of what you need to consider. It's not everything. It's the minimum practices of moving to that approach from wherever you might be from a left side of this continuum.
Let me jump in and ask you a question there that's popping up, but that's not a judgment statement as to where you want to go and one is better than the other. This is situative, context-based. In some cases, you're going to need an Agile 1 or an Agile 2. In other cases, an adaptive hybrid 2 would be more appropriate. Is that kind of the statement of this spectrum, or is the idea to drive everybody to the right?
No. So what it is it's going to show you what you're going to need to consider and maybe make some changes to be able to get the benefit of the agile lifecycle approach. So that's one thing. It's like, instead of just saying, have at it, go figure it out, we're now showing you. And the other thing is showing you and being like, we can't actually do all of that. Okay, well then maybe you need to be looking here or somewhere to the left of that. So let me show you how it works, and then let me
ask you one more question so I don't forget it. So, but this is not to be understood as a semi-equivalent of a maturity model, right?
It's not. It's really more of, this is how we're able to show you how to make where you are today and where you would like to get to, what it potentially is going to take. And it's more about continuous improvement. Again, a lot of the organizations I work with, for a lot of their teams, trying to make a jump all the way over here is too big. And it's not going to be sustainable.
Well, it's also the question of whether it suits the purpose.
Exactly.
And I want to point this out, because in your wording, that was where my question came about. You referred to the two on the right as agile, but we have to remember hybrid is partially agile.
It is. And how we describe that in these quick starts is it sort of more predictive than agile, or is it a little more agile than predictive? At some point, there's a bit of a changeover. Yeah. There's no right or wrong. And it's about trying to deliver value more effectively, and also, better for the people doing the work, right?
Well, it's a means to an end, but you need to know what means you have.
Yeah. So this is how it works, right? So I'm just going to try to get inception, which is going to be small, and then I'm going to zoom back in, right? Because there's stuff all the way to the right. So if you were to ask me, so what is the bare minimum of, we're mostly predictive right now, to move to this agile life cycle, what do we need to do, right? Without giving you a prescription. So what I can do is I can come over here and I can have our, Agile 1 approach based on the DA life cycle. There's a link to the microsite. And now what you're going to find are indicators.
Those yellow indicators. So that's the minimum requirements, kind of.
So this is it.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
So if you're going to move to an agile approach and you're going to be implementing requirements in a short time period, like 2 weeks, right? Then what are the practices you're going to need to do that? Well, I'm going to recommend you do user stories. You're probably going to want to use epics. You're going to want to decompose something at a higher level, which would be features, which you might already be doing. You're going to want to have acceptance criteria. And again, there's links to all this to the browser. An explicit list is your non-functional requirements. It's just it's an approach for being able to to capture that and not write it in every single story. Technical stories, and you're going to have a backlog. Now, what I also like to show, this is the minimum you're going to need to consider, right? And so let me get over here to develop test strategy, because that's one of the bigger. I'm going to zoom out for just a minute. Ooh, there is a lot of things within the test strategy. There's only one indicator here, story testing. Because if you're already delivering a digital product, you're probably doing many dimensions of testing already. So what I want to be able to show is that out of the roughly 1,300 practices at the team level, inception, construction, transition, and ongoing, the practices you need to at least consider doing or look for some alternatives to make the transition to the Agile life cycle. There's like 65 of them, or I can't remember the exact count. But when we work with teams, and I'm going to show you, this is an actual example of all of the practices. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here for just a moment. So this is also a way for teams to visualize their way of working, communicate what it is, continue to improve it. We've got 3 indicators that we use, right? So this is the adopting indicator. So you can see that next to Agile 1, there's, adopt, right? There is continue using indicator, like, hey, we already have a glossary, we're already doing business rules, we're already doing, we've already got feature statements. And very, very sparingly, and again, this content in the board and in the talk track that I've got, is if you want to explicitly be able to say, our stakeholders are used to seeing these shall statements. We are stopping that practice because we're using stories, right? So again, this is, stop is there, but again, we wouldn't want to use that a lot. So how this looks back over here, and you can see, and I'm going to go back to testing. And this is actually based off of a actual team at a consulting engagement at a large organization. That this isn't something that was just created in the academic lab. I mean, this is derived directly from working with a team, and this is very indicative of working with teams. You can see, they were accessibility testing, database testing, so they're already doing all of that. That's why there's continue next to it. But to move from where they're at,
Just a quick thought that's bouncing around in my head. I want to get it out so that I can clear it again. You're giving us an example of Agile 1, and if I understand correct, Agile 1 and Agile 2 would probably be the more advanced forms. I'm assuming that Hybrid 3 will have a smaller scope, right?
Yep. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out for just a minute, and I'm going to show you. You see all the yellow boxes? These are all the little visual indicators of the practices, right? So what I'm going to do is I am going to turn off my Agile 1 Quick Start for a moment. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Hybrid 1. And let me zoom out. And you can see this is where it's a predictive approach with a handful of Agile practices.
So I think it's important also for the listener to understand this is the wealth of what they're getting here. And this is, I guess, the way to overcome this overwhelming depth of content, because you see the forest because of the trees, is that your system will say, based on the model that you're using, we'll pick out the trees that are relevant to you.
That is correct.
Yeah.
That is correct. So this is a huge change in direction from what we've seen in DA. And this is something, again, my company and me personally, I mean, we've done this with customers for, I don't know, a decade now. So we have a lot of success doing this. And this was something that the work that I did with PMI last year, we were able to actually bring into DA to say, we talk about DA being a approach that supports hybrids. And it is, and it always has been. But people don't understand what that means. So these practices here, and I'm going to just zoom in for a moment. If you're doing a mostly predictive or traditional approach, you can still do daily stand-ups. You can still use a Kanban board.
That's one of my big pet peeves. Long before I knew what Agile was, when I first read my first Agile books, I'm like, this was common sense to me. I've always done Agile.
Yeah.
I mean, you quite honestly, as an operational experienced project manager, if you didn't use certain principles of Agile, you don't know what you're doing. I've never done even the most hardcore predictive projects. I always used Agile methodology. I didn't call it that during execution. But I will say this: I often use predictive models in Agile projects when it comes to initiation. Because I think I prefer predictive models for big picture.
Yeah. So this really, and right now we've got these 5. These are again. I'm gonna move over here for just a moment to the spectrum that we've got. And there's again a fair amount of information here. Each one of these, I'll zoom in, which will still be a little small, but you can see it gives you a visual indicator that we're looking at adaptive hybrid 1, which again just is where we're starting to introduce some practices. Down here, you're seeing a description of the quick start, its benefit and considerations, and recommended practices. So now I'm gonna turn this off for a moment, and I'm gonna go back to Agile 1. So that you can see there's a lot more practices. There's the description. This is the representative example of the lifecycle NDA. So these are either going to take you to the browser or they're going to take you to more information that's on that microsite. So what I've tried to do with all of this is make it as actionable as possible. You can, instead of just saying a PDF graphic, these are all clickable links.
I'm sorry that I'm laughing. I have to think back to what you said, Joshua, about this not being a prescriptive model. I'm going to tell you something. There are a bunch of project managers who are jumping up and down in their seats because this is the Jamie Oliver approach to solving some of their problems, which is very prescriptive, but it doesn't limit them. I mean, there is, once you get good at, if you practice cooking long enough, then you understand where the range is where you can change, But this is a great, and quite honestly, and I'm going to say this as well, one of the biggest problems, and I have a big, this is not just a fake background, and I've read all of them. I've read maybe about 55 to 60% of them. One of my big pet peeves with a lot of the literature out there, a lot of them tell you what you need to do, and everybody knows what they're not doing. Okay, I don't think we need another book to tell us to do what we're not doing to begin with. I think as weird as it sounds, I think the big problem that people have is not that they don't understand what they need to do. I think most of the people don't know where to start and how to do it. And I find this, and I don't think it's a contradiction to what you said, but it's a fine line. You're really giving people a toolkit here where they don't have, it's giving them a how.
Yeah, it's definitely giving them a how to start with, and again, determine if that how is the right one for them, or again, it's and let me show you. So I'm gonna turn off my Agile 1. I'm gonna go to Agile 2 for just a moment because this is the continuous delivery life cycle, just to kind of show. I mean, there's lots of things that I've got layered that you can turn on and turn off. It cuts down on visual clutter. Again, there's videos and quick starts and all this stuff all through this of how to make it work. But what I want to show you is something that goes beyond, and I'm gonna let me turn off this so they're not all over the